Welcome dear audience, students and scholars. Here I'm Dr. Amjad Ali. Dear scholars, in our previous videos we have been seeing many models of how the economy works. When learning these models, it can be hard to see how they are related with one another. Now that we have finished developing the model of aggregate demand and aggregate supply, this is a good time to look back at what we have learned. This video sketches a large comprehensive model that incorporates much of the theory we have already seen in our previous video, like classical theory, which we have discussed in our earlier videos related to the macroeconomics, and the business cycle theory. The notations and the equations should be familiar from our previous videos and discussion. The goal here is to put much of our previous analysis into a common framework to clarify the relationship among the various models. So in this video we are going to discuss the mother of all models. Structure of the model. The model has 7 equations. The first one is y is equal to c into y minus t plus ir plus g plus nx epsilon. This is our is goods market equilibrium equation. Second, m over p is equal to l into I y. This is our LM money market equilibrium equation. Third, nx epsilon is equal to cf into r minus r static. This is our foreign exchange market equilibrium equation. Fourth, I is equal to R plus E pi. This is our relationship between real and nominal exchange, nominal interest rate equation. Fifth, epsilon is equal to EP over P static. This is our relationship between real and nominal exchange rate equations. So our sixth equation, y is equal to y over bar plus alpha into p minus ep. This is our aggregate supply equation. Seventh, y over bar is equal to f into k over bar L over bar. This is our natural level of output equation, we can call it. This is our classical model equation. These 7 equations determine the equilibrium value of 7 endogenous variables, like we have output y and the natural level of output y over bar, and the real interest rate r, and the nominal interest rate I, and the real exchange rate. Here we have epsilon, and the nominal exchange rate we have E, and the price level we have P. With these endogenous variable, there are some other kinds of variable. There are many exogenous variables that influence these endogenous variables. They include the money supply M, government purchases G, taxes T, the capital stock K, the labor force L, the world price level P static, and the world real interest rate R static. In addition, there are 2 expectation variables: the expectation of future inflation, that is E pi, and the expected or we can say the expectation of the current price level formed in the past, that is EP. As written, the model takes these expectations as an exogenous, although additional equations could be added to make them endogenous. Although the mathematical techniques are available to analyze this 7 equation model, they are beyond the scope of this video here. But this large model is still useful because we can use it to see how these smaller models we have examined are related to one another. In particular, many of the models we have been studying are specifically related to with one another, or special case of this large open economy as well. Let's consider here we have 6 special case in particular. Let's discuss the 6 special case here. The first special case 1, the classical closed economy. Suppose that EP is equal to PL into IY is equal to 1 over VY, and CF is equal to R minus R static is equal to 0. So, in other words, these equations mean that expectations of the price level adjust so that expectations are correct, that money demand is proportional income, and that there are no international capital flows. In this case, output is always at its natural level. The real interest rate adjusts to equilibrate the goods market. The price level moves parallel with the money supply, and the nominal interest rate adjusts 1 for 1 with expected inflation. Special case 2, the classical small open economy. Suppose that EP is equal to PL into IY is equal to 1 over Y 1 over V, Y, and CF into R minus R static is infinitely elastic. Okay, now we are examining the special case when international capital flows respond greatly to any differences between the domestic and world interest rates. This means that domestic interest rate is equal to world interest rate, R is equal to R static, and that the trade balance NX equal the difference between saving and investment at the world interest rate. Special case 3, the basic model of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Suppose that alpha is infinite and L into IY is equal to 1 over VY. Okay, in this case, the short run aggregate supply curve is horizontal, and the aggregate demand curve is determined only by the quantity equation. Special case 4, the IS and LM model. Okay, suppose that alpha is infinite and CF into R minus R static is equal to 0. Okay, in this case, the short run aggregate supply curve is horizontal and there are no international capital flows. For any given level of expected inflation, E pi, the level of income and interest rate must adjust to equilibrate the goods market and the money market. Special case 5, the Mundell-Fleming model with a floating exchange rate. Suppose that alpha is infinite and CF into R minus R static is infinitely elastic. Okay, in this case, the short run aggregate supply curve is horizontal and international capital flows are so great as to ensure that R is equal to R static. Okay, the exchange rate floats freely to reach its equilibrium level. Special case 6, the Mundell-Fleming model with a fixed exchange rate. Okay, suppose that alpha is infinite and Cf into R minus R static is infinitely elastic and the nominal exchange rate E is fixed. Okay, in this case, the short run aggregate supply curve is horizontal. Huge international capital flows ensure that R is equal to R static, but the exchange rate is set by the central bank. Okay, the exchange rate is no an exogenous policy variable, but the money supply M is an endogenous variable that must adjust to ensure the exchange rate hits the fixed level. Okay, you should now see the value in this big model, even though the model is too large to be useful in developing an intuitive understanding of how the economy works. It shows that the different models we have been studying are closely related with one another. We made some simplified assumption while developing these models to make the big model smaller and easier to understand. So let's see a schematic diagram for the understanding of the mother of all models. First we have the mother of all models. This macroeconomics is divided into two parts. First one is related to the classical and second one is related to the Keynesian. And the classical part is divided in further two categories. That first one is closed and open. And closed economy can be interpreted as the classical closed economy, and the open economy can be further divided into two parts. That first one is small and second one is the large. And the small one can be interpreted as classical small open economy, and the large part is interpreted as the classical large open economy. Okay, moving towards the Keynesian economics, the Keynesian economics can be further divided into two parts: the closed part economy and the open economy. And the closed economy can be studied with the help of IS and LM model with fixed velocity of money, and this will be based on basic aggregate demand and aggregate supply model. While moving towards the open economy can be further distributed in two parts. That one, first one is small or large open economy, and the large open economy we have discussed the short run model of the large open economy. While moving toward the small open economy, there are two further categories. That first one is floating exchange rate and fixed exchange rate. Okay, while the floating exchange rate, we have studied the Mundell-Fleming model with floating exchange rate, and while the fixed exchange rate, we have studied the Mundell-Fleming model with fixed exchange rate. This schematic diagram that illustrated here shows how various models are related with one another. In particular, it shows how starting with the mother of all models above, you can arrive at some of the model examined in our previous videos and in our previous discussion. Here are some of the main steps involved to study the mother of all model. The first one is the classical or Keynesian. Okay, you decide whether you want a classical special case which occurs when expected price is equal to actual price, or when alpha equals 0, so output is at its natural level, or a Keynesian special case which occurs when alpha equals infinity, is so the price level is completely fixed. Okay, closed economy or open economy. Okay, you decide whether you want A closed economy which occurs when the capital flows CF always equals zero, or an open economy which allows CF to differ from zero. Small or large economy. If you want an open economy, you decide whether you want a small one in which CF is infinitely elastic at the world interest rate or static, or a large one in which the domestic interest rate is not pinned down by the world interest rate. 4. Floating or fixed exchange rate. If you are examining a small open economy, you decide whether the exchange rate is floating, in which case the central bank sets the money supply, or fixed, in which case the central bank allows the money supply to adjust. Fifth, fixed velocity. Okay, if you are considering a closed economy with Keynesian assumption of fixed price, you decide whether you want to focus on the special case in which velocity is exogenously fixed. By making this series of modeling decision, you move from the more complete and complex model to a simpler or more narrowly focused special case that is easier to understand and use. When thinking about the real world, it is important to keep in mind all the models and their simplifying assumption. Each of these model provide insight into some fact of the economy. So this is all about the mother of all model. So see you with another video. Ciao.